Part 1. The Power of Silent Work. Imagine this. It's 2:47 in the morning. The city outside is dark and silent. Most people are asleep, wrapped in their dreams. But in a tiny apartment, one lamp glows. At a small wooden desk, a young man bends over a notebook. His hands are tired, his eyes burn. But he keeps writing, keeps planning, keeps working. No one sees him. No one cheers. No one even knows what he's doing. But that young man is building something. He is building a future. And that future will one day shock everyone. This is the hidden truth about success. It is never born in the spotlight. It is born in silence. The quiet hours. The unseen grind. The moments when no one claps for you. Most people never understand this. They rush to announce their plans. They tell the world what they're going to do, long before they've done it. And in all that talking, they lose the energy they should have used to act. But the ones who rise, the ones who truly build great lives, they take a different path. They work quietly. They move in silence. They let their results do the talking. Napoleon Hill, the man who studied the greatest minds of his time, wrote something that has guided generations. Tell the world what you intend to do, but first show it. That's the principle we'll explore in this story. And by the time you finish this first part, you will understand why silence is not weakness. It is strength. The young dreamer. Let's return to the young man at his desk. His name is Daniel. Daniel had big dreams. He wanted to build a business that could change lives. He wanted freedom, success, and the ability to give his parents the life they never had. But here's the thing. Daniel didn't tell anyone. He didn't post about it on social media. He didn't brag to his friends. He didn't even share the details with his family. Why? Because Daniel knew something most people don't. He knew that talk is cheap. He knew that every time you announce your goals, you feel a little burst of pride, like you've already achieved something. But that feeling tricks you. It steals your hunger. So instead of talking, Daniel worked. Night after night, he read books, filled notebooks, and studied people who had already built the kind of success he wanted. He sacrificed nights out. He sacrificed sleep. He sacrificed comfort. And while others were busy showing off, Daniel was digging roots. The secret of the tree. Think of a tree. Before it grows tall and strong, before it stretches toward the sky, it spends years growing its roots underground. Those roots are invisible. Nobody sees them. Nobody claps for them. But those roots are what make the tree unshakable when storms come. Daniel's late nights, his quiet hours of study, his private discipline, those were his roots. He understood that greatness begins underground. It begins in silence. Why silence builds power? But maybe you're wondering, why does silence matter so much? Why not share your goals? Why not tell people what you're doing? Here's why. Talking spreads energy outward. Action builds it inward. When you tell everyone your plans, you invite opinions, doubts, and distractions. You give people the chance to weaken your focus. And often, instead of working, you spend your time defending your dream. But when you keep your dream private, when you protect it, all your energy stays where it belongs, on the work itself. Napoleon Hill called this concentration of effort. Every great person he studied had this ability. They shut out distractions, ignored applause, and poured themselves fully into their mission. That's what Daniel was doing. He was concentrating his effort. The runner who kept quiet. Think about it like this. Imagine two runners. The first runner stops every mile to shout about how fast he's going. He takes pictures, tells people to watch him, and keeps announcing that he'll win. But every time he stops, he loses momentum. The second runner says nothing. He just keeps moving. Mile after mile, steady, quiet, determined. He doesn't waste energy on talk. He saves it all for the finish line. Who wins? The one who stayed silent. That's the power of working without noise. The treasure chest of effort. Daniel often reminded himself of this image, a treasure chest. Every late night he worked, every small action he completed, every hour he sacrificed. It was like putting a coin into that treasure chest. No one saw the chest. No one saw the coins piling up. But Daniel knew that one day, the chest would open. And when it did, the world would see wealth, success, and results that no one could deny. That's how silent effort works. It builds quietly, secretly, until one day the results surprise everyone. Your turn now. Pause for a moment. Think about your own life. How much energy have you wasted talking about your goals instead of working on them? How often have you told others what you'll achieve, only to feel tired before you even start? The truth is simple. Success doesn't need announcements. It needs action. You don't need the world to cheer for you. You don't need people to approve. You need discipline. You need the quiet fire of focus. Remember this: silence is not empty. It is full of power. A promise to yourself. One night, as Daniel closed his notebook, he wrote a simple promise to himself. I will let my work speak. I will not chase applause. I will not waste energy proving myself to others. My results will roar louder than my words. That promise carried him through the years ahead. It carried him through failure, through doubt, through long nights when nothing seemed to work, and years later, when Daniel finally revealed what he had built, people were stunned. They asked, "Where did this come from? How did you do it?" And Daniel smiled, because he knew the answer. He had done it in silence. The lesson: greatness is not born in noise. It is born in quiet hours. It is built in the shadows, when nobody is watching. The applause will come later. But for now, you must work. So as we begin this journey together, take Daniel's lesson with you. Stop announcing. Start advancing. Stop talking. Start building. And remember what Napoleon Hill taught us: proof is stronger than promises. This is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll talk about the first real step to silent success: setting powerful, private goals that belong to you and no one else. Sparkles. End of Part 1. Sparkles. Part 2. Resilience in the shadows and self-belief without validation. Hook. The silent fighter. It was a cold winter morning when Ella stepped outside for her usual run. The streets were empty, her breath visible in the air. Her shoes hit the pavement in rhythm. Thud, thud, thud. No one was there to clap for her. No one was recording her progress. No one was watching at all, and yet she kept running. Why? Because Ella understood something that most people never do: real strength is built when nobody's looking. Napoleon Hill once said that every adversity carries with it the seed of equal or greater benefit. But to claim that seed, you must be willing to keep going when life gives you no applause, no encouragement, no audience. That is where resilience is born. The lonely road. Ella's life hadn't been easy. She had tried starting a business twice and failed. She'd been laughed at by her own relatives who said she was chasing a dream too big for her. At first, those words hurt. She almost gave up. But then she realized something powerful: nobody was going to push her forward. If she wanted to build her dream, she had to be the one to carry it, step by step, even when it felt lonely. And so she chose the silent road. Every morning before the city woke up, Ella trained. Every night, while others scrolled through their phones or watched TV, she studied, planned, and worked. No recognition, no audience, just quiet determination. This is the kind of silence Napoleon Hill admired in the lives of great achievers. It is in those unseen hours that resilience is forged. Setbacks are not walls. Life tested Ella again and again. A product launch failed. A loan was denied. A trusted friend backed out of the partnership. Each time, she could have stopped. Each time, she could have said, "Maybe this isn't meant for me." But Ella began to see her setbacks differently. Instead of treating them as walls, she treated them as weights, like the ones she lifted at the gym. Painful at first, but each rep made her stronger. This is the secret of resilience. Every difficulty is not punishment, but preparation. Every challenge is training. Just as a muscle grows by pushing against resistance, the human spirit grows by pushing against adversity. The gift of silence. The silence gave Ella a strange kind of freedom. When no one is watching, you don't have to fear judgment. You can stumble, fall, and rise again without anyone mocking you. You can try, fail, and learn in private. Ella used this gift well. She experimented, made mistakes, and improved quietly. Each small comeback was a hidden victory, one that no one else noticed, but she noticed. And over time, those hidden victories built something unshakable inside her. This is what Napoleon Hill meant by persistence. He wrote that persistence is to success what carbon is to steel. It makes you unbreakable. The fire within. But resilience alone wasn't enough. Ella needed something deeper: self-belief. Here's the truth: many people never reach success because they wait for others to validate them. They won't take the first step unless someone tells them they're good enough. They want applause before they've achieved anything. but applause is temporary. It fades as quickly as it comes. Ella discovered that real belief cannot depend on external praise. It must be built inside. Think of belief as a fire. External praise is like wind. Sometimes it fans the flame, but sometimes it blows it out. Internal conviction, however, is steady fuel. It keeps the fire alive no matter what happens outside. Ella stopped waiting for approval. Instead, she began validating herself. Celebrating silent wins. Every time Ella woke up earlier than yesterday, she wrote it down. Every time she completed a task she had been putting off, she gave herself credit. Every time she pushed through fatigue instead of quitting, she celebrated quietly. These may have looked like small victories to the outside world, but to Ella, they were proof. Proof that she could rely on herself. Proof that her dream was safe in her own hands. This is how self-belief is built, not in noise, not in applause, but in daily discipline. Napoleon Hill taught that faith is a state of mind which can be induced by repeated affirmations and acts. By acknowledging her silent wins, Ella was planting faith in her own abilities. And faith, once strong enough, makes you unstoppable. History's silent builders. Ella often reminded herself of people she admired. Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before creating a working light bulb. Henry Ford, who went bankrupt 5 times before building Ford Motor Company. None of them had crowds cheering during those failures. None of them had people encouraging them every step of the way. They had to keep going in silence, fueled only by their own belief. And because they persisted, the world eventually celebrated their names. Ella wanted to walk the same path, not of quick applause, but of lasting success. Becoming unstoppable. The shift was clear. Once Ella stopped chasing approval, she became free. She didn't waste time explaining her dream to doubters. She didn't adjust her vision to please the crowd. She didn't beg for validation. Instead, she moved with quiet certainty. And that certainty commanded respect. The world began to notice, not because she demanded attention, but because her results spoke louder than words ever could. This is the power of self-belief without validation. Your challenge now, let me ask you, can you keep moving forward when no one is watching? Can you rise after setbacks without waiting for someone to clap for you? Can you believe in your vision even when the world doubts it? If you can, you have tapped into the same resilience and self-belief that built history's greatest successes. Remember, resilience is built in the shadows. Self-belief is forged in silence. When the spotlight finally arrives, people will see the strength, but only you will know the truth of how it was built. Closing lesson. Napoleon Hill said, "Victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting." Ella's journey proves it. Her resilience was born in silence. Her self-belief was strengthened without validation. And because of that, she became unstoppable. So as you walk your own path, welcome the silence. Celebrate your hidden victories. Build your fire from within. Because one day, when your results finally step into the light, they will roar louder than any applause, and the world will know what you already knew in the shadows. You were always capable. Sparkles. End of Part 2. Sparkles. Part 3. The fire that last took. It was 5 a.m., and the world was still asleep. Daniel sat at his desk with only a small lamp on, staring at the blank page in his notebook. His friends always admired his passion for writing, but what they didn't see were the countless mornings like this, mornings when passion alone wasn't enough. He was tired. His body begged him to go back to bed. But instead, Daniel whispered to himself, "Do it anyway." That whisper was discipline, and it was discipline that would change his life forever. 1. Passion starts the fire. Napoleon Hill once wrote that desire is the starting point of all achievement. Daniel felt that desire the first time he wrote a short story as a child. The thrill of creation, the excitement of new ideas, that was passion. Passion is what makes you begin. It gives you energy, like sparks flying from flint and steel. Without passion, you wouldn't even strike the match. But Hill warned that passion alone is not enough. Just like fire, passion can burn bright for a moment, then vanish if you don't feed it. Daniel learned this quickly. He would start new projects full of excitement but stop when the work grew difficult. His notebooks piled up, half-finished stories left behind like abandoned dreams. He realized something important. Passion could start the fire, but it couldn't keep it alive. 2. Discipline keeps it burning. Hill taught that successful people build habits stronger than feelings. Daniel discovered this truth the hard way. 1 Winter morning, snow piled high outside his window. Passion was nowhere to be found. Inspiration had left him. But discipline spoke louder than excuses. "Sit down. Write 1 page." So he wrote. The next day, he wrote again. Soon, writing became as automatic as brushing his teeth. That is the secret of discipline. It doesn't ask how you feel. It commands you to act. Hill believed that forming definite habits is how ordinary people achieve extraordinary things. Daniel's discipline transformed his scattered passion into steady progress. Slowly, words filled the pages. Chapters grew. His dream began to take shape. 3. The artist and the athlete. To remind himself why both passion and discipline mattered, Daniel often thought of 2 examples Hill admired: the artist and the athlete. The artist starts with passion, the vision of a masterpiece. But if he paints only when inspired, he will never finish. The true artist shows up daily, even when his heart is tired. The athlete runs onto the field because of passion. But his victories are not built in the stadium. They are built in the silent, disciplined hours of training, when the crowd is not cheering, when no one is watching. Daniel asked himself, "Do I want to be the amateur who quits when feelings fade, or the master who builds in silence?" Every morning, his choice was tested. And every morning, discipline gave him the strength to keep going. 4. Building brick by brick. Hill loved to use metaphors, and Daniel adopted one of his own: building a house. Passion is the dream of the house. You can see it in your imagination, picture every detail. But discipline is the bricklayer. He shows up each day, stacking one stone upon another. Without passion, the worker has no reason to build. Without discipline, the dream remains only an idea. So Daniel became both the dreamer and the builder. He protected his passion like a flame from the wind, reminding himself daily of his vision. At the same time, he practiced discipline, laying one brick after another, page by page, draft by draft. It wasn't glamorous. No applause. No recognition. But brick by brick, the foundation of his dream became real. 5. The power of silent growth. One of Hill's most powerful lessons is that strength is built in private, long before the world sees the results. Daniel realized this while sitting in his quiet room, writing words no one would read, at least, not yet. There was no praise, no validation. Only silence. But in that silence, he was growing stronger. He learned to balance passion and discipline without distraction. He enjoyed small victories, finishing a page, completing a chapter, resisting the urge to quit. He began to understand that working in silence was not punishment, it was preparation. His persistence, unseen by the world, was shaping him into someone unstoppable. 6. The legacy of discipline and desire. Years later, when Daniel finally published his book, people were amazed. They called him talented, gifted, even lucky. But Daniel smiled. He knew the truth. It wasn't talent alone. It wasn't luck. It was the union of passion and discipline, practiced day after day in silence. Hill would have called this definiteness of purpose backed by persistent effort. Daniel called it his legacy. The applause felt good, but it wasn't the applause that mattered. What mattered were the countless mornings when no one was watching, the silent battles he fought with himself, the fire he refused to let die. Passion had started his journey. Discipline had carried him to the end. Together, they had built something that would outlast him. A creation born in silence, now shining in the light. Sparkle's lesson from Part 3. Passion is your spark, but discipline is your fuel. Protect both, practice both, and in silence, you will build a fire that the world cannot ignore. Do you want me to continue Part 4 in the same format? Storytelling, 1,000 words, 6 subparts, based on Napoleon Hill, so it flows smoothly? Part 4. The energy you choose. Each morning. The alarm buzzed at 6 a.m. Sarah groaned, rolled over, and stared at the ceiling. She had 2 choices: hit snooze and drift back to sleep, or rise and set the tone for her day. It seemed like a small decision, but Napoleon Hill taught that success is hidden inside the small choices we make daily. Sarah didn't know it yet, but the way she used her mornings would determine the direction of her life. 1. The morning choice. Sarah used to start her days in chaos. Rushing out the door, skipping breakfast, checking her phone before even brushing her teeth. Her energy felt scattered, and by noon, she was already drained. Then one evening, while reading Think and Grow Rich, she came across Hill's principle. You have the power to control your mind and direct it to any end you desire. She realized that each morning, she was giving up that control. Instead of choosing her energy, she let circumstances choose for her. So she decided to change. The next morning, before touching her phone, she sat quietly and asked herself one question. What energy will I bring into today? That single decision became the foundation of a new life. 2. Creating before consuming. Hill believed that success belongs to those who shape their own minds instead of letting the world shape it for them. Sarah noticed that when she checked her phone first thing in the morning, she was consuming other people's thoughts, news headlines, social media posts, emails. And no wonder she felt distracted. So she flipped the script. Instead of consuming, she started creating. She opened her journal and wrote 3 things: her biggest goal, 1 step she could take today, and 1 thought of gratitude. At first, it felt strange. But soon, she noticed her focus sharpening. She wasn't reacting to the world, she was leading her own mind. Hill called this autosuggestion, the power of feeding your mind with the thoughts you want it to believe. By creating before consuming, Sarah was programming her mind for success every single morning. 3. Movement as a mindset. One of Hill's core ideas was that body and mind are deeply connected. Sarah had always thought exercise was only for fitness, but she discovered it was also fuel for the mind. She started small, 10 minutes of stretching, a short walk outside, or a quick workout at home. Those moments of movement woke her body and cleared her thoughts. Hill often wrote about vital energy, the force that fuels persistence. Sarah felt it firsthand. On mornings when she moved, her confidence rose. She walked taller, thought clearer, and handled challenges with more strength. Movement became more than physical health, it became a mindset. A reminder that success starts not only with thoughts, but also with the energy flowing through your body. 4. Eating with intention. Sarah also realized how much her food choices affected her energy. When she skipped breakfast or grabbed something sugary, she felt a quick rush followed by a crash. Hill taught that successful living requires harmony of body, mind, and spirit. Sarah began treating food not just as fuel, but as part of her discipline. She chose simple, nourishing meals, fruit, oats, eggs, or smoothies. She noticed a shift. Her mornings no longer felt heavy. She had steady energy for hours, and her focus lasted longer. Eating with intention wasn't about dieting. It was about respect for her body, respect for her goals, and respect for the journey she was on. 5. The silent ritual. What tied everything together was silence. Hill believed that every person needs a period of thought control, a daily practice of directing the mind. For Sarah, mornings became her sacred time. Before the world demanded anything from her, she sat quietly for 5 minutes, breathing deeply, picturing the life she wanted. She imagined her goals already achieved, her future self smiling back at her. This was more than visualization, it was training her subconscious mind to believe. Hill wrote that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Sarah was learning to conceive and believe in silence, before the noise of the day began. Her mornings became less about routine and more about alignment. She was aligning her thoughts, her body, and her spirit toward her definite purpose. 6. From chaos to power. Months later, people began noticing a difference in Sarah. She looked calmer, more focused, more alive. Friends asked, "What changed? Did you get a new job? A new opportunity?" She smiled and shook her head. "No. I just changed my mornings." That was the truth. She had gone from chaos to power, from reacting to leading, from drifting to directing her life. Napoleon Hill would have said she had learned the secret of self-mastery, the ability to choose her energy each day and build habits around it. Sarah's mornings were no longer accidents. They were decisions. Each sunrise was an invitation to build her dream with discipline, clarity, and persistence. And little by little, those mornings added up to something extraordinary. Sparkle's lesson from Part 4. The way you start your day is the way you build your life. Choose your energy. Create before you consume. Move your body. Eat with intention. And in silence, align your mind with your purpose. Your mornings are not just the beginning of the day, they are the beginning of your success. Would you like me to go ahead and draft Part 5 in the same story style, 6 parts, 1,000 words, Napoleon Hill inspired? Part 5. Passion and discipline in private. Hook. The first time Daniel picked up a guitar, Passion flowed through him like fire. The sound of the strings made his heart race, and he dreamed of one day standing on a stage, playing to a roaring crowd. But here's the truth Napoleon Hill often reminded us of. Dreaming is only the beginning. Discipline is what turns dreams into reality. Daniel didn't know it then, but passion alone would never carry him to greatness. The world is full of people with passion. Few combine it with the steady discipline needed to master their craft. 1. When passion fades for the first few weeks, Daniel played every day. Passion made it easy. He stayed up late strumming chords, imagining himself as the next big star. But soon the excitement began to fade. His fingers hurt. The strings cut into his skin. The sound wasn't smooth. He realized becoming great wasn't as quick as he thought. This is where most people quit. Napoleon Hill would call it the difference between temporary enthusiasm and definiteness of purpose. Passion had started the fire, but it was not enough to keep it burning. Daniel needed something stronger. 2. Disciplined steps, and Daniel remembered a lesson from his grandfather, who used to say, "Son, don't wait for motivation. Show up whether you feel like it or not." So Daniel made a decision: 10 minutes of practice, every single day, no matter what. At first, it felt forced. Some nights he didn't want to touch the guitar. But he reminded himself of Hill's principle: persistence backed by discipline builds mastery. Slowly, those 10 minutes grew into 30. 30 turned into an hour. And while passion had given him the spark, discipline gave him the habit. 3. The silent hours. Daniel didn't post videos online. He didn't tell his friends about his new routine. He practiced in silence, away from attention. That quiet discipline became his strength. He stumbled, played wrong notes, got frustrated. But no one was watching, so he kept going. Hill often taught that character is formed in private long before it is recognized in public. Daniel was living that truth. The hours in silence became his training ground, shaping him into someone who could endure. Passion made him dream of the stage. Discipline made sure he would be ready when the stage arrived. 4. Passion with purpose. As weeks turned into months, something interesting happened. Daniel's discipline brought his passion back to life. The more he practiced, the better he sounded. The better he sounded, the more excited he felt. Passion and discipline began feeding each other like two gears turning in harmony. Napoleon Hill believed passion should always be linked to a definite purpose. Otherwise, it fades. Daniel began to see his purpose more clearly, not just to play for fun, but to master his instrument so deeply that his music could inspire others. His fire wasn't just for himself anymore. It was for a vision larger than him. 5. The test of the empty room. One evening, Daniel's younger sister peeked into his room and laughed. "Why do you play so much? No one's even listening." Daniel smiled. She didn't understand, but Hill would have. Success isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the empty room, where discipline outweighs applause. Daniel kept showing up night after night, guitar in hand, proving to himself that his dream mattered even when no one was watching. That's the test of true passion and discipline. Can you keep working when there's no audience, no praise, and no recognition? Daniel's answer was yes. 6. When preparation meets opportunity. 2 years later, a local cafe held an open mic night. Daniel's friends pushed him to sign up. Nervous but ready, he stepped onto the stage for the first time. As he played, the crowd went silent. His music was smooth, confident, alive. People clapped, cheered, and asked for more. What looked like an overnight success to the audience was really 2 years of private discipline fueled by passion. Napoleon Hill's words echoed in Daniel's mind. "You cannot cheat the law of habit. Your silent persistence will one day roar louder than words." That night, Daniel didn't just play a song. He proved a principle. Passion may start the journey, but only discipline carries it to greatness. Sparkle's lesson from Part 5: Passion is the spark, but discipline is the fuel. Passion makes you begin, discipline makes you continue. Work in silence, strengthen your habits, and let your results one day speak for themselves. Greatness isn't built in front of a crowd, it's built in private, day by day, brick by brick. Would you like me to now draft Part 6, final part, in the same style, tying everything together with Napoleon Hill's ultimate message, plus a powerful call to action for your readers/watchers? Part 6. The legacy of quiet persistence. Hook. Late at night, while the city slept, Emily sat at her small desk with a single lamp glowing. Papers were scattered, ideas written, and failed drafts crumpled on the floor. She wasn't famous. No one was cheering for her. No one even knew she was trying to build something big. And yet, she kept showing up. Napoleon Hill would have smiled at this scene, because he often said, "Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel." It was in these quiet hours, unseen, uncelebrated, that Emily was forging her future. 1. The long road. At first, Emily believed success would come quickly. She thought her new project would succeed in months. But months stretched into years. Plans failed. Partners quit. Money ran out. She faced nights of doubt, asking herself, "Is this worth it?" But Hill's words rang in her memory. Most people quit when success is just around the corner. So Emily kept going. She realized that persistence wasn't about winning fast. It was about refusing to stop, no matter how long the road became. 2. Small steps, big results. Instead of focusing on the mountain ahead, Emily broke her journey into small steps. 1 phone call today. 1 page written. 1 idea tested. These tiny actions didn't look like much. But Hill taught that small efforts, repeated daily, compound into greatness. Like a farmer planting seeds, Emily kept sowing her efforts even when the field looked empty. She trusted that persistence would bring results in time, and slowly it did. Doors began to open. People noticed her work. Opportunities she had once only dreamed of began to appear. 3. Failure. As teacher, Emily didn't escape failure. In fact, she failed more times than she succeeded. But she remembered Hill's principle. Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So instead of seeing failure as a wall, she treated it as a lesson. Each setback taught her something: what not to do, how to improve, where to adjust. Working in silence gave her freedom to fail without fear of ridicule. She could stumble, learn, and rise again stronger. This adaptability became one of her greatest weapons. 4. Pressure and composure. There were moments when pressure threatened to crush her. Deadlines, bills, and doubts all at once. Many people would have crumbled, but Emily had trained in silence. She had built discipline, strengthened her mind, and learned to stay calm in the storm. Like a captain steering a ship through wild waves, she kept her composure. She breathed, thought clearly, and made steady decisions while others panicked. This calmness under pressure gave her an edge. It made her unstoppable in situations where others gave up. 5. The harvest of persistence. Years later, Emily's quiet persistence blossomed into visible success. The project that once looked impossible became a thriving reality. Her name began to spread. People admired her overnight success. But Emily knew the truth. It wasn't overnight. It was built in countless silent nights, fueled by persistence, passion, and discipline. Her story reflected Hill's timeless wisdom. Patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. The world finally saw the harvest, but Emily would never forget the hidden work that made it possible. 6. Legacy. Beyond success. Emily's journey didn't just give her personal success. It gave her something greater, a legacy. Her story became proof that persistence in silence creates unshakable strength. People around her were inspired, not just by her results, but by her character. Napoleon Hill believed success is not just about wealth or fame, but about the person you become in the process. Emily had become resilient, adaptable, and disciplined. Her legacy wasn't built on applause. It was built on persistence, quiet, steady, relentless. And that is the final key to greatness: the willingness to keep moving forward, even when no one sees, until your results speak louder than words. Sparkle's lesson from Part 6. Persistence is the bridge between dreams and reality. Work in silence. Keep moving, even when no one notices. Fail, learn, adapt, and keep going. One day, your results will shine so brightly that the world cannot ignore them. And when that day comes, you'll know the truth. Your greatness was forged in the quiet hours, one persistent step at a time. Clapperboard call to action. If this story inspired you, remember, you have the same power within you. Success is not luck. It's persistence, discipline, and belief in silence until the world takes notice. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe for more motivational stories. Backhand index pointing right. Share this with someone who needs encouragement today. backhand index pointing right, and don't forget to comment below. What dream are you willing to persist for, even in silence? Your persistence could be the beginning of your legacy.